Record.
Hi folks, welcome back again with myself and Riley.
How you doing?
This time it's obviously the Friday night preview. Obviously we gave you the video during the week there, Tuesday night, of the reviews of the Sunday games and stuff. So tonight's one's all about previews. Basically just going to cover what starts of the week again and previewing the fantasy matchups, and then at the end we'll be previewing the NFL matchups if you want to stick around for that long, but that's entirely up to yourselves. But the first half hour or however long will be entirely fantasy relevant anyways. So
and I'll do the wee bit at the end, this day in history also towards the end. We'll chuck that in at the very end there if you want to stick about for that. That'll be a game chosen that happened in this day in the past, and we'll see if you want to stick about. There'll be a YouTube link to the actual game, 10-minute highlight. We'll talk about that at that stage.
Little new wee part. Get some of the newer guys to go back and see what the NFL was like maybe before they started watching. So
I've picked a game that's quite well known from the 90s, and some really well known players and teams and defences and stuff like that. So it's a good game to catch up on some of the history of the NFL. People, including myself, had missed at the time, but I'm aware of this game. Aye.
Definitely. So we'll kick off with the Raiders-Chargers game from last night then. That finished 30-27 to the Chargers in overtime. Just a quick recap of the bets that we predicted. So I got both of them correct. I had the Chargers to cover the spread of +3, which they did, and took the over 53.5, which it just hit. Riley got the Chargers to cover as well, though, so you chose the under, didn't you?
Yes, I chose the under. Did the overtime affect that? No. Yes. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Aye.
So really, it was overtime.
It was 24-24 going into overtime.
Aye. So I would have been correct if it wasn't for overtime. Damn you, overtime.
I was basically guaranteed. The overtime basically guaranteed the over.
Aye.
Unless, because one team would have had to score 3 points at least. I think there was six points I was waiting on for the over to come in. So one team would obviously had to score a field goal at least.
Well, I had the under over at 63.5, so I would have still been all right. If you just one field goal.
I know. The other defence would have had to take the ball away, wouldn't they?
I'd have been confident in that.
They nearly did as well. The Raiders nearly did. But they never. And the Chargers got the score, so the touchdown. So a wee little recap of that was Derek Carr got injured quite early in that game, first quarter. Marcus Mariota came in, the former number 2 pick was he? Winston went first overall.
Winston went first. He was the number 2 pick. I think it was the 2015 draft. Jameson then Marcus.
But Mariota looked quite good. The offense obviously changed with him because he ran the ball. The last I seen, I don't know where it finished, but the last I seen he was around 78 rushing yards or something like that, 78 rushing yards. So he done quite well, to be honest.
Rushing yards at 88 he got named. So almost breaking 100.
He looked decent, so that's his first start in about a year or two or something as well. So.
At least a year. I think he played at some point last year when Derek Carr was injured, but aye.
But so the Raiders keep staying in the hunt for the playoffs. So they do. As I said, they should have had an interception in overtime as well, the Raiders, which would have killed the game. But the Chargers should have won in regulation time as well because they missed 2 field goals, so they kind of counteract each other. Apart from that, I just think the Chargers head coach is just the worst clock manager in the NFL because the Raiders had in overtime. The Raiders, it was a third down, so it went on to third down, and there was only like 2 minutes something left on the clock, or maybe even less than that. And instead of calling timeout when they've got a third down, he just let the clock run off for about 20 seconds, and then he called the timeout. I was sitting there thinking, like, I think it maybe was fourth down. It was third or fourth down it was going on to, but he just didn't call the timeout. He let 20 seconds run off the clock. He should have just called the timeout straight away. But they ended up winning anyway. So,
there's a few of those you see over the kind of months, and you're going, why you not called a timeout? And there's maybe more to it that we don't know, but it certainly just seems like bad time management, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. But they got the win anyway, so it didn't affect it too much. But
Herbert. Herbert had a phenomenal game.
I think the main fantasy options in that game was basically Herbert and the two tight ends. Tight end Waller and Hunter Henry in it.
Yeah.
And then you had that receiver for the Chargers, but nobody was really starting him. I mean, I would have picked him up to start him if Keenan Allen and or Mike Williams weren't playing, and then they both played. But Keenan Allen was limited, so he never done much. That wee guy, was it Johnson or something he's called? I can't
mind. Not even sure, to be honest.
I think he get like 13
Guyton, maybe. Or is it Johnson? Johnson, there's a Guyton and a Johnson. So
that pretty much wraps Thursday night football up. And we'll move on next to our starts of the week again then. You wanting to kick off with your quarterback then first?
I need to remind myself who my starts of the week are here. I didn't write that down. My starts of the week were... You go first while I get it.
Right, so my quarterback start of the week is I'm jumping away from the old rusted car, jumping on the new fresh sports car, and jumping on Jalen Hurts. He had 100 rushing yards against the Saints, which the Saints are pretty good defense. So 100 rushing yards against them was really good. He's playing the Cardinals. Their secondary isn't the best, and they play a lot of man coverage. So that'll free up running lanes for Jalen Hurts. So I think he could hit that 100 rushing yards mark again, and potentially 100 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, and potentially throw 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think that'll be a high scoring game.
I think so. I think there's going to be plenty of yards for him to pick up, especially with Sanders back there as another option in the running game. I think the Cardinals defence are going to have a tough night. So for my QB, I have went for Locke at the Broncos versus the Bills defence. He threw for 4 touchdowns. Again, I've tried to go for some players who are on the market for MD in fantasy, who's maybe in a struggling position or just wants to take a chance at it. So I went for Locke this week. I think he's going to have another good week. The Bills do let in some touchdowns, but I'm going to go for take a gamble.
Locke's hit or miss, isn't he? He's either on fire or absolutely dreadful.
Going to be very Derek Carr-esque. He's going to be 1 week you get 25 points and the next week you can get 3. But we'll see. In it to win it. And then at running back, I'm going to take Davis for the Carolina Panthers, and they're playing the Packers defence. Another tough matchup, but with Christian McCaffrey likely out again, I think he could step up and have another good week.
Yeah, I agree with that one. He'll get all the work, so aye. My running back start of the week is Cam Akers for the Rams. The Rams started the season off with like a three running back committee, but Cam Akers, the rookie, is now pretty much taken over that starting job there with the Rams, and they like to run the ball quite a lot with their blocking tight ends and stuff. They usually play 2 tight ends in their formation. So he had a good week last week. Well, very good week last week, didn't he? I think he could be a running back 1 again this week. And that's whoever, don't know who, can't mind who drafted him. I think he's actually playing against me, so it'll be Pedro, I think. And I don't know what round they got him in, probably 6 or 7, but he could be a potential keeper pick as well.
Well, see, I'll need to check because something makes me think at one point I had Akers in my team, but when he was injured, but I could be completely wrong. I'll tell you right now, the person who has him is Pedro, and he was added at free agency on the 4th of November. So you probably have to go back. I've got a funny feeling I did draft him at some stage. But then he got injured, obviously, or else he was injured getting into the season, so he just was there. It was Malcolm Brown and all the rest of them. But
he wasn't doing much to start the season, so he just came out the last week or two. So
I could be talking shite on that, but I might be in a league I've got. I'm pretty certain. I'd have to go back and look at my fantasy draft.
I'm sure I dropped him in another league as well when he was injured and he wasn't getting. It was all that Henderson basically, so I'm sure I dropped him in my other ESPN league, but can't mind. Right, on to my wide receiver. My wide receiver start of the week is. I'll change this one now, I said to you, because originally Brandon Ayuk would be my start of the week, but I don't want to do one that's on my team.
That's allowed.
I just think he'll have a huge week this week with Deebo Samuel out, but because he's on my team, I'll double down on a player that I've mentioned the previous 2 weeks, T.Y. Hilton. He had a brilliant game again that week just there. The week before, he was sensational against the Texans, and who's he playing this week again? The Texans. So I think T.Y. Hilton will be a top 20 wide receiver easily.
I have went for Donovan Peoples-Jones, who seemed to fly out for the Browns last week. He got 74 yards over 3 receptions, which I think they will now start to lean towards him a wee bit. Landry seems to be getting cut out. Although he's great in vital positions, he just doesn't seem to be able to get space. So I've got a funny feeling they might use this guy this week. Now they've got a bit more confidence in what he can actually do. Because that's the last 2 weeks. He's had a touchdown against the Titans. He never got a touchdown this week, but both weeks he was over 70 yards. And he's only had 5 receptions, which to be sitting at 166 yards with only 5 receptions, it shows you're a real deep threat. So I'm going to take a gamble on him. He was on free agency for somebody to pick up, but yours truly picked him up just in case. You never know, because I've got a couple of wide receivers who are questionable this week, so it might be worth me taking a punt depending how that works out. And my last one for my tight end position, I have Ebron of the Steelers, and they're playing the Bengals this week. Now, the Bengals tend to give up a lot of yardage to tight ends, and Ebron's been in a wee bit of form as well, so I'm going to take a punt on him this week.
I was going to say, when you mentioned that Peoples-Jones, he got a touchdown the week before last year as well, so you mentioned that anyways. So I think that's quite a good wee deep shout there. So my tight end start of the week is Cole Kmet, however you say his name, the Chicago Bears. He's basically took over the starting job at tight end there ahead of Jimmy Graham. He's running more routes, if you're American, running more routes than Jimmy Graham. He saw 7 targets 2 weeks in a row. Tight ends don't usually get 7 targets in any game, never mind 2 weeks in a row. So tight end landscape's quite garbage, as we've been mentioning. So I think Cole Kmet could have a good game if the targets keep up.
I could be a good shout. I think that wraps us up for our starters of the week. A few of them are on free agency. As I say, I pinched one of them. But certainly one of mine are on there. I don't know about yours. I think you might have a couple as well.
Tight ends on there.
So MD's struggling. Either listen or don't listen. It's your choice. So I think we'll move on to the reviewing of the matchups this week. Or do you want to touch on any injuries first, or do you want to do the injuries as we run through each matchup?
I will just touch on them during the matchups.
So the First matchup, we'll start with the playoffs. So we're in the semi-finals because we're for the UK, and that's what you would say. We've got Gary and James head-to-head with each other. So far, I believe Gary's the only person who's had anyone play. He said he's kicker play, so he's picked up 9 points. Gary's projected 122, and James is projected 130. Your thoughts on this one?
Obviously, you kind of touched on it earlier about McCaffrey. Don't think he'll play again this week. Be very unlikely if he does. So that's obviously a big blow. Gary quarterback situation. Who does he go for there? Does he stick with Josh Allen or put in Jalen Hurts against a kind of worst defense? That's going to be a big decision. I think I would probably go with Jalen Hurts, but Josh Allen's got you to this point of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't.
Maybe just stick to him in the playoffs. Don't take any gambles.
Josh Allen's had a couple of iffy games this season, but overall he's been reliable. What is he, the 5th best ranked quarterback in the league in fantasy points? It's not really the time to take a gamble on a rookie who one good game. They might turn around and, like a deer in headlights, have a howler against the Cardinals, coming up against a similar type quarterback in Kyler Murray. So no, I think I would go with Josh Allen in this one. The other notable injuries for Gary, he's got 2 questionable players. He's got James Robinson and AJ Brown, who both should play, but it is worth mentioning just in case. And as you said, it's very doubtful for CMC. I think the only one James has really got is Mixon is still unavailable. There have been rumours that by week 14 he would be fit. Well, they went to week 15 and he's still in IR. So
I'm sure I mentioned one of the last ones that I don't think we'll see him again this season because they've got nothing to play for, so it doesn't really make sense with their quarterback of the future out, their running back tied up for the future. I don't think it makes sense for them to bring him back, to be honest. So I don't think we'll see him.
Forgetting projections for a minute, looking at James's team for me anyway, you look at the Devontae Adams, Lockett, Ebron, Boyd, Higgins, even the Rams defence, Cook, Rodgers. There's a reason why he finished the number 1 seed. I think, although I think last week he might have got beat by a couple of players, whether it was Andy or whoever, if he'd been playing them, I think he's still probably got the best team in the league. So, sorry Gary, but I'm going to go for James as my prediction.
Well, obviously that Rodgers and Adams tandem we touched on last week as well, so there's not really much else to say about there. Gurley's not been great recently, so but you can counter that with Dalvin Cook. But Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams, they 3 alone, and then if it's a Tyler Lockett week or if it's a Metcalf week, if you've got the Tyler Lockett week, then you're probably laughing with them lot. The only things I would really say is, well, he's got the Rams D against the Jets, obviously, which they could easily get about 20 odd points. They'll
start the game with 10, and I think they'll end the game with a minimum of 10, and it just depends if they get any QB sacks or any interceptions.
Yeah,
I think you're talking about 14 points at least for the Rams defence.
I would say so. I think it's his second flex, his Tyler Boyd option that I'm no against Pittsburgh with the backup quarterback. Don't know if I've not looked at waivers to see who else is out there, but he'll get receptions and stuff, so it's a safe play. Whereas Gary would need like Deontay Johnson to stop dropping passes, and don't know. The way I'm looking at this one is, if I was Gary, I would go for at least one kind of boom or bust player in my lineup this week, because you probably need it to counteract Rodgers, Cook, and Devontae Adams. And that's why I mentioned the Jalen Hurts. I would maybe, just for pure upside of the rushing yardage and stuff like that, I'd maybe put him in for that. Looking at his bench, there's not really much else there. I mean, he picked up Fournette, I saw the other day, because Ronald Jones is out, but you can't put Fournette in the semi-final of the playoffs. No chance.
No.
Even he'll get most of the work himself, but you can't do it. You can't rely on Fournette. He was a healthy scratch last week. So
One thing worth noticing though is Gary hit 145 points last week. James hit 120. Fair enough, he never put one of his flex positions in. They were injured and he just changed it. So say he picked up his next best player, he still lost that game by 10 points. So it does show we shouldn't write Gary off. But
I will get. They've both got players that can put up 30 points. James Robinson could put up 30 points. Kareem Hunt on his day could. AJ Brown. Hawkinson could put up 10 to 15 easily as well. Kiki Kuti, he could put up about 15, 20. This is obviously all on their day kind of thing, but it's I think this will be the highest scoring matchup of the week. Like both these guys will have the most points, first and second, or close to that anyway. So I think this will be a good old shootout, if you like.
So I'm for James for the win. What about yourself? Did you predict it in there?
I will go for. Since Gary abused his last week, I'll go for Gary with the upset then.
No, so
Gary said he made
one vote.
Set his lineup.
One vote each. Then the next playoff game, we have Dan taking on myself. Dan is projected for 144 points. I'm projected for 130. Dan started off excellently this week with his team getting 25 points for the Raiders. So he's got that early advantage over that 14 points. And I know you shouldn't look too much into those projections, but when you also look at the rest of his team, assuming some of those questionable players still go, like Zeke, Mostert, Marquise Brown is out. If you look at those players, as long as the other two still go, I think he should have enough in the lottery to get me done. Unless Chubb and Jones have another fantastic week and somehow prepare. That's our hope.
That's a tough start for yourself. A tight end getting 25 points.
If that's a running back, you're happy. Like that's a running back week. Never mind a tight end.
I still think that you've easily got enough to claw that back, though. Looking at the players and their matchups, I mean, Wilson might be in for a tough game against the Washington defense, but I mean, you've got Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones against the Panthers, which are one of the worst rush defenses in the league. Robbie Anderson, I don't think he'll have a great game because the Packers' number one cornerback will probably shadow him, and he's like the second highest rated cornerback in the NFL this season. But saying that, you've got Tunyon, he could put up 10 to 20 points. Woods against the Jets, Swift. Your three running backs could claw you back into that. And obviously, if Tunyon gets a fair amount, a decent amount of points as well, your tight ends, you could claw your way back. I mean, Dan's got Brady. I think Brady will do well this week. Mostert will do well, but then look at that. He's got Nyheim Hines. He's not the starter for the Colts. Zeke's faded recently with the injuries to the line, and the offense just been worse. He's more an RB2 now. David Johnson's back right enough, so I think you've easily got enough in the locker to claw your way back into it. But you would probably need one of Tyreek Hill or Metcalf to maybe have a down week.
Yes.
I don't expect Hines to put up many. 8 points maximum for Hines, I would say. So I think you've got enough to claw your way back.
I think
Devontae Parker, I'm not sure. I'd maybe take the shot on Peoples Jones now instead of Parker.
It's either him or Rager. I'm also thinking Rager for Parker. I'm going to leave that one because Parker only, he get rejected. He never scored, so he's still injured in it. So I'm thinking this is maybe the week that I take him out And
I wouldn't risk. I don't think this week.
I
I don't know. I don't think he'll play, to be honest.
I think Jalen Rager.
What I don't think it's a hamstring injury. It's tough.
Jalen Rager's not long back from injury. He said Carson Wentz, who was playing poor, he's now got a chance to come in and show that he's the wide receiver number one. So this might be a wee bit of chemistry, because bearing in mind that they played quite well together, but that was for limited snaps and only 1 week under their belt. You think there's another week, because he's taking first rep snaps with first rep players, where for a while Jalen Hurts has been taking the second reps, so he's been working with more of the backups. So now he's been working with Jalen for another week. You've seen Alshon Jeffrey only had 1 reception, but it was a touchdown. You're going to have a lot more of that happening. So I think Jalen might start doing a wee bit more of the deep threat. So hopefully that might be my switch, would be Parker for Rager. But for a neutral point of view, I'm saying Dan. Just looking at that early start, if I had that early start, I'd be saying me. It's the opposite. If Dan's got that early start, it's him.
I think I'd be the same, just because of the fact that it was a tight end putting up that amount of points.
If a tight end gets 10 points, you're laughing, you're going, oh, a good week from a tight end. Tight end usually only get like 7, 8, 9 points. If they get a touchdown, they might hit just into double digits, but to hit 25.5 points is no unheard of, but it's up there with Kittle and Kels.
It was one of the wide receivers, Hill or Metcalf, that had put up that amount of points, then you kind of expect that some weeks. So I would have leaned your way there, but the fact that it was a tight end, I think I'll lean Dan. Although I do think you've got enough to come back into that anyways. But
I think
it's the tight end, I'll lean Dan.
I think although I voted for Dan and James, I do think that myself and Gary are well in with a shout. I don't think it's a case of like we've no chance here. But
I do think both will be very, very close.
Aye.
And I think that the players that have these 4 teams have got in their rosters, it'll be a very, very fun semi-final as well, I think.
We'll see how it happens. Moving on to the spoon, whatever the hell is going on with that, because I thought it was a knockout, but it's not. We've got Gary McNaught versus Ben. Gary is projected at 132 points because he's had Hunter Henry play. They've got him 15, and Ben has projected for 118 points.
Gary also had Balaj playing.
He
only got 11 yards, but he did get a touchdown. So 22.1 points out of a running back and a tight end so far for Gary. Derrick Henry again. That's what it's going to come down to, I think. He's got a great matchup.
I just wish Gary had traded him earlier in the season like he wanted to me. And I should offer Woods and whoever else it was. Obviously, Gary's got the big advantage here, but Ben has DJ Moore coming back off the COVID list, which is a big boost for Ben. His DJ Moore's a cracking wide receiver. Well, Samuel's still questionable, but I think when you've got Moore there, you don't really need to worry as much about Samuel. So
you would imagine the second that DJ Moore is 100%, if they knows that he's going to play 100%, then he'd put him in instead of Samuel in his lineup.
DJ Moore's your go-to guy. Robbie Anderson's your deep threat. They've got it up there. Samuel's in there as well as your third option, but those two, if you can have those two fit, I think DJ Moore's your guy. But for me, I think Gary's going to probably just notch this one, with the extra wee boost that he's had already for Hunter Henry getting 15 points. Ben, like you said, he's still got plenty there to play for. I think he can still come back, but
I actually think Ben will claw it back and go on to win this one. To be honest, I mean, 7 points from one of your running backs isn't great. I know he's got Henry; he'll probably get about 20.
That's what I'm thinking.
At least. But Ben has Sanders, Drake, there sitting at his running back, and then he's got Alan Robinson, who's really, really good with Trubisky. I know we joked about Trubisky last week being able to throw and stuff like that, but he just targets Alan Robinson all day long. DJ Chark's a bit of boom bust, but with Minshew back, he likes targeting him, so he could get a good few points. And then obviously my start of the week, Hilton.
That's the only reason you're swaying.
No,
because
he'll have Hilton and DJ Moore and his flex, Robinson, Chark, and Drake and Sanders. I like that much better than Russell Gage against the Bucks' good defense and Godwin, because Godwin's hit or miss this season as well, because Brady just spreads the ball about. And I think Justin Jefferson's got a tough matchup against Chicago with the pass rush there. So I think Ben will come back and sneak this one, to be honest.
I'm forgetting about Young Ho Koo, the kicker for the Atlanta Falcons, his own best team as well. So I suppose he could have one of those 21-point type games again. So you never know.
Gary's getting the big Jason Sanders for the Dolphins. So
you're never gonna turn down a Dolphin. So I'll back Gary, but it sounds like you're backing Ben for this one then.
Yep.
Moving on to the next matchup, we have Clark, who's projected 117 points, playing against Andy, who's projected for 144. I think Clark had Eckler had played this week. I think he get 10 points, but Andy had Herbert 31 points. He'll be up there in the top 3 fantasy points for QBs this week with that sort of. I think probably just gave Andy the added advantage, although he has lost John Brown. But I suppose, would you play John Brown to begin with? Melvin Gordon questionable, Antonio Gibson is likely out. And this is for Clark, and then for Damien Harris is questionable. I think that Antonio Gibson is a big one for Clark as well. If you've got him there, you've got a chance to maybe come back. But I think, for me anyway, I think Andy's going to nick this one just with the Herbert starting so well.
I think so as well. Clark would need Kyler Murray to put up the same amount of points as Herbert really to be back in with a shout there. So, and your defence, the Eagles' defence is quite good this season, although it's not really shown in the stats, but I think they're really good defence. It's just the fact that they've been on the field so much because the offence has been garbage.
Aye.
So, I don't see Kyler. Well, you never know because he rushes. It's a tough one, but I think that's what Clark would need. I mean, Kamara for Andy's not been great, but he's playing the Chiefs. That'll probably be a shootout game, so he could have a big blow-up game. Melvin Gordon's a bit dodgy, but then you're looking at the 4 others that he's got: Hopkins, Diggs, Mike Davis, and Thielen. They could all easily get 20 points each any given week. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, and you compare that to McLaurin, who's been pretty bad recently. Cooper Kupp, Landry, and Marvin Jones. I don't see the upside there for Clark, whereas Andy's got a lot of upside there. So,
when you look
I would definitely back Andy in this. I'm trying to look at Clark's bench to see if there's any kind of boom or busty players that he could put in, but not really.
The crazy thing is, when you look at it, you've got Hopkins, wide receiver number 1, Landry, wide receiver number 1, Andrews, tight end number 1, Kupp, wide receiver number 1, McLaurin number 1, Montgomery number 1, Eckler number 1. They're all really, really good players, but they just don't seem to have consistent weeks. You've got like something will pop up one week. I think last week where he got 23 points. He's 3, 25, 22. But then when you go back before the bye, he was hitting 3.7, 9.4, 11.5. They've had really inconsistent seasons. So you might just have hit Montgomery at the right time. And then obviously for McLaurin, it depends who his QB is. So he needs somebody with a deep arm, which is
I think Haskins is starting for them this week.
So
I'm sure I saw that earlier.
He's probably just unlucky that he's in a team, McLaurin, that's not got a deep threat, a deep arm, which he might have in Haskins. I don't know if his arm's any deeper than Alex Smith. We'll see how it goes. But no, I'll take Andy this week. I think Andy.
Tough ask to come back for that.
Andy's been unlucky not to make the playoffs, personally, for me. I think he's probably got the second best team in the league, behind James. So to be in the position...
I was saying earlier, obviously, that the James and Gary Houston could both be the highest scorers of the week. That start for Andy, he could easily just be the highest scorer of the week by quite a bit.
Aye, especially with the way Herbert started and the players he's got there. But aye, so we're moving on. We've got yourself versus Pedro. You're projected for 117 points. Pedro's projected 109. He has had Nelson Aguilar start already, so he's on 7 points. His big players that are out is Julio Jones, or Julio Jones, how you want to say it. And questionable, he has Kyle Rudolph. Yourself, you've got Michael Thomas questionable, Gaskin questionable, Jones is out, and Brandon Cooks is also questionable. You've got another few players in there that are questionable, but to list your list of questionables, because you seem to pick them up when they're on IR.
Well, the only one I picked up when they were on IR was Marlon Mack, and I only picked him up just to see what team he signs with in the off season because his contract's up. So
you know that's what. Do you know what IR? You know what IR stands for?
Yes.
Ian's Reserves. It's just Ian's Reserves. That's what it's just to let everybody know. These guys are all Ian's Reserves. I'm going to pick them up when IR.
I mean Gaskin was apparently close to playing last week, but obviously couldn't have been that close if he's out again this week. So, I think I quite fancy myself in this one.
Aye, okay.
I mean, I've not set my lineup yet.
I was going to say I can tell you've not set the lineup when you've got Washington in there and you've got the likes.
I just moved random players to pick up someday.
Aye, yeah, I know. We all know your tactics, don't we?
So looking at Pedro. Sorry. Let me see. You said about Julio. I'm not sure if he'll play. Is he out?
He's out. The same as Gaskin is now out. I said he was questionable. He is now out, according to ESPN, where he wasn't when I had made these earlier.
Aye, I mean, Wayne Gallman has been a running back one recent weeks. He's got Cam Akers, my start of the week. As I said, I think he'll be a running back one. McKissick's been good with Antonio Gibson out. He's been quite good for Washington. Rivers against Houston again. I think he had a good game against Houston 2 weeks ago, so he could have another big game. Tim Patrick, I like him because we've got him in our Cohen League. Corey Davis, I'm not sure what he's been like recently, but I know he had a big game a couple of weeks ago. Only 3 points last week, so I think this will be very close. The fact he gets 7 points out of Aguilar was more than I maybe expected. I'll probably start with, so instead of DeAndre Washington, I would have in...
Surely moving in there and then Ayuk would be the...
Carson up there. Carson up the running back spot, and then I would have Ayuk at my wide receiver, and then at my flex I would have Cooks if he's back, or then I'm stuck with either Bowden or Ahmed for the Dolphins, or pick somebody up. So I think this will be a close one myself, to be honest. The Julio being out is a boost for me, but I could see Pedro winning it easily with his better running backs than me, but I think my guys are kind of more they've got more upside.
You've also got to remember, you've got Mr. Cramp playing the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, so if Lamar Jackson coming up against him, he could have a field day, and he's
hopefully, because he's been looking in the past 2 weeks. He's looked like last season's Lamar Jackson, so hopefully that continues.
So I'll take your...
Still getting that Irish cricket.
Still doing it. So I will back yourself as well, Ian. I think you'll have enough to take out Pedro this week. So that'll be... I think you were voting for yourself there, I think.
I'll back myself. Aye, go for it.
So
not arrogance.
The final matchup of the Spin Trophy is Lee playing Robert. Currently, Lee is projected for 104 points and Robert for 105. Robert has had one player play who I cannot make out my writing. He's only 2 points.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, that's what that's supposed to say. And then I think Lee has had Jacobs play to get him 18 points, but Lee also has two players that he hasn't put in his team yet because two of his players are projected for 0 because his kicker is out, I believe, and Gesicki is also questionable, but he's to the 0 point.
I don't think he'll play.
So if you anti-account, you'd imagine there's probably not at least 16, 17 points projected there for Lee if he puts these players in. Picks up his kick. We'll need to make a note of that in the league. He'll have to get his players done. Connor and Ridley are also questionable. And for Robert, he has Golladay, who's out. And it sounds like Golladay will be out for the season. He probably could be back. But they're saying, look, similar to what you said, there's no point in rushing him back. Let's keep it till next season.
I'm sure Golladay's out of contract as well at the end of the season. So
he's maybe refused to play. Maybe refused to play. Fuck it. And Philip Lindsay's a questionable one. So for me, taking into account the fact that Lee has a couple of guys in his team who are not listed, he's also got, as I say, Tannehill, even a good week against the Lions, Cooper and Claypool and the Chicago D. I'm going to say Lee. I'll take him for this week.
I would tend to agree with that. The fact Jacobs put up 19 points and Keenan Allen only put up 2, that's obviously a head start now. And as well, he's got Ridley and Julio is out. I mean, I know the Tampa defense, we talked about them being quite good earlier on, but Ridley should get quite a lot of targets with Julio out again. So, in saying that though, James Conner hasn't been great. Watkins, Gesicki is going to be out, so maybe picks up one of our starts of the week there. I mean, I think you can see why they're in the kind of lower tier of the league. Obviously, Robert's not been helped with Barkley being out all season and Golladay, but looking at their flexes and stuff, I mean, Robert's got a tight end and Sterling Shepard in his flex. It's not great. Singletary hasn't been great. I think Dobbins will have a big game. But apart from that, you've got Antonio Brown as well. Like, I just think this will be a kind of low scoring game, but obviously I would back Lee as well, just with the Jacobs. The Jacobs like 19 points basically. But it doesn't. I think this will be this could be the lowest scorers of the week, anyways. Nothing's jumping out at me. Like,
I think probably at this stage both players have lost a wee bit of, not say interest, but a wee bit of like that urgency to go out towards the end of to get somebody. We'll see after this. I think Lee will take it.
I mean, when you've got Kelsey, obviously he could always put up big numbers, so that's an advantage for Robert. So Kelsey could easily put up like 30 points.
He had 20 odd points last week, so could repeat that again. We'll see. It'll be an interesting matchup. I'd be tempted to say Dobbins might pop up with another TD this week as well.
Yeah, I think he could have a good week against the Jaguars. I think that could be a high scoring game as well, that one.
Aye.
But we'll cover that in a bit.
So I'm going to make a quick suggestion here before we move on that we switch to our last two segments, which is This Day in History and Booming Kicker. And that way, if anyone wants to stay on and listen to the projections for our projected bets and things like that, because we're on to about 55 minutes and some people might tune out at this point. So
yeah,
I'll put it in the descriptions, but for this day in history, which is the Friday the 18th of December, we had the 3-time Super Bowl winner Jerry Rice for the San Francisco 49ers put up 289 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Vikings in a 37-30 win for the 49ers. It's a 10-minute highlight on YouTube. Steve Young was the quarterback for the 49ers at the time. So that's 2 Hall of Famers who, if you've not really been following that era, they're the kind of guys. I think that's the era that a lot of people say, but that 95 to maybe the early 2000s is when football was proper football. It's kind of changed a bit now to be your lightweight wide receivers who are more athletic. These guys were just guys who could sprint and they barge through people, and you'll see a lot of that in the game. And the 49ers defence were the number 1 defence that year. 49ers didn't win the Super Bowl that year. I think it might have been the Cowboys, maybe. But it's a cracking game. It will be in the description if you just want to have a look. And if you watch it, again, let us know if you watched it and if you liked it. And we'll do the next segment, which will be Booming Kicker of the Week. So who do we have this week, Ian?
So, well, last week, first of all, we had my guy Rodrigo Glasses Blankenship. I predicted him to get 18 points. He got 14. But he was he was joint top scorer the kicker position last week, so that was a success. This week you kind of touched on him earlier, so the Booming Kicker of the Week this week, we are one step closer to the Fantasy Super Bowl. It's the playoffs, round 2. Take the step with Falcons Young Wei Koo. And yes, I had to Google how to pronounce his first name.
Did I get it right then? Oh, Diego, I didn't even have to. I got it right first time.
Young Wei.
Nah, he's a cracking kicker. I know you're not a fan of kickers, really, but aye, I think...
that's why we came up with this segment, wasn't it? Because I don't like them, but I'll make up a wee rhyme every week for one.
Aye. So at this stage, you're more than...
Oh, that's actually... I'll predict his points this week. Since I done that last week, so I'll predict that Young Wei Koo will get 14 points this week. So same as last week, 14
There we
points.
go. We'll hold you to that. I'll make a note of that. 14 points. Koo. So this should have been the 3rd segment, but seems we've rolled on this a wee bit. So as I say, you're more than welcome to hang about if anybody's actually listening. So Thursday night football, we had Raiders versus Chargers. It finished 27-30. Chargers winning at the Allegiant Stadium. I think we touched on it at the beginning with the Chargers +3 and the under 53.5 is what I had, which was a loser. So I only get 1 and Ian get 2. So I'll give myself a win for that. Saturday night football. So I will correct myself.
Saturday.
Yes, still Christmas Saturday night football. Broncos versus the Bills at the Empower Field. The Bills are currently at -5 and the over and under is at 49.5. So I've went...
Before we kick off, did you do the spreads and stuff this morning again?
Aye. 3 o'clock, something like that maybe.
Aye, that's fine. Right? So we'll go with your spreads because you'll be, again, obviously I done them at work last night, so yours will be more updated. So I will go with yours. That's fine. Just checking that before we...
So I've went for the Bills -5 and I've went for the 49.5 over. So
I would also take the Bills in this -5 and I'll go with the over as well. I'll match you in that one.
So we're both on the same. The other Saturday night game, I think that's about 1:20 in the morning for us, so technically Sunday. Packers-Panthers at Lambeau, and Packers are starting as -8, and the over-under is at 51.5. Let you go first.
Packers to cover the spread and the over I'll go for.
I've went for Packers -8 and 51.5 under. So we'll see how that one goes.
So we're both Packers -8, but over under.
Then on to the 6 p.m. games on the Sunday. We've got the Falcons Bucks at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tampa starting -6, and it's at 48.5 for the under-over. I'm going to go for Tampa to cover. So I've decided I'm just going to always mark the under-over. I'm not going to, cover the spread. I'm not going to do what I did last week, which was just take a winner. So I'm just
I'll do the same then.
Pause deep. So -6 Tampa, and I'm going to go for the under though at 48.5.
I'm the exact same. Originally, I was going to go for the Falcons to cover, but with Julio out, I am the exact same as you then. Bucks
the Julio went through me a wee bit for this, why I went for the under. Ravens and Jags are played at the M&T Ball Stadium. Was it Bank Stadium? Sorry. Ravens +13 and the over under at 48.
Ravens are -13. Yeah, I did.
Well, minus, you know what I mean.
Jags are the favourites by 13 points.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's set at 13. So I think we'll both be the same for this one. I think Ravens -13 is a definite. I'll go for the over at the 48.
Aye, same.
Next up, Cowboys versus 49ers at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys are +3 and the over at 45.
I'll go for the 49ers -3, and I'll go for the under.
We're the exact opposite then, because I'm going to back the Dallas Cowgirls at +3 and the over 45. So we'll see who comes out on that one. Colts Texans at Lucas Oil Stadium. Colts are the favourite here, -7.5, and the over-under is at 51. I'm going to take the Texans. I'll take the +7.5 for the Texans, which is going against what my brain is telling me, because this year the Colts have been quite good at getting high-scoring games. So I still think the Texans maybe have a bounce-back week, although they're missing a few players, and Fuller and Cooks and stuff like that. I'll still go with them and over 51, because I think there will be points, because when the Colts are about points.
Believe it or not, I'm the exact same. I fancy the Texans to cover the spread in this one. I'm not saying that they'll win, but I fancy them to get beat by less than 8 if that anyway. So I am the exact same as you, the Texans to cover and over.
Aye, that's kind of my viewpoint as well. That the reason for making sure that I just take the spread, because it means that the Colts could still win, which I think will probably happen. But take good cover. Dolphins Pats, Hard Rock Stadium. The Dolphins, probably for the first time in I don't know how many years, starting as favourites against the Patriots at home. So that must be the first in a while.
God knows how.
Should have Googled that, and somebody would have probably known, but I reckon it'll be a good 8 or 9 years anyway, if not probably the full Tom Brady. I've taken Dolphins to cover, so the -1.5 and the under, which is 41.5, I think.
1.5. I think the lock of the week is the under in this game. I think that's the lock of the week, the under 41.5 in this game. It's guaranteed. Don't know, we've got loads of injuries this week, so I mean it's only 2 points, I suppose. So I'll back us to get one back over on them. Dolphins and under. It's back at Hard Rock anyway, isn't it? So
back at the Hard Rock, yep.
We usually split the series with them every season, so us in the under.
So I'm the same. Vikings Bears at US Bank Stadium. The Vikings start at -3 and the under over is at 46.
It's a tough one. Vikings have been doing really well recently, but the Bears' pass rush and defense is really well. So I don't know if the Vikings nullify that, try to run the ball more and not having Cousins pass. So I will go for think I'm going to go for the Bears to cover the spread in this one. And I will go for the 46. So I think if the Bears are covering the spread, then it will hit the under. So that's the logic in that one. I'll go for the Bears to cover the under. I think their defense maybe plays well this week again.
Well, going against my better judgment, I have decided to go for the Vikings for the second week, and I've taken them at -3, and I'll also go the under because I do think it will be a low-scoring game, but I think the Vikings will have a wee bit better form than they did last week. And
yeah, I think that could go either way. It could go the over or the under easily. It just depends what way both teams play, whether they both run the ball loads or they open it up through the air a bit. My logic says that the Vikings will try and nullify the Bears' pass rush by running the ball quite a lot, which will obviously run the clock down quicker. The Bears might replicate that as well. So that's my logic.
Next up, we have Titans versus Lions at the Nissan Stadium. The Titans start at -11, which is quite a lot for those guys, and the under at 51.5. Is Matthew
Stafford out?
That's what I'm thinking, because I know he picked
I think so.
Injury late on, so that's what's making me think why it's -11. I didn't think to check.
I think he is.
In fact, well, I'll give you mine's is -11 and the under 51.5. If you want to give a prediction, I will check.
Exact same as what I have written down as well. I took the Titans -11 and under because I thought that Stafford was out. So he probably is because I've written it down like that.
He's just listed as he was a limited participant in training on Friday, and he's questionable for Sunday's game. So that might be why the under-over's been set at -11, because it's the Lions are a team who traditionally get beat by that much. But if Stafford's out, then probably because Chase Daniel, isn't he? QB.
I think what we do here is if Stafford's out, then we take the Titans in the under. If Stafford plays, that's the Titans obviously -11 and under. If Stafford plays, I think we would go with the Lions +11, and it could hit the over. I think if Stafford plays, I would take the Lions +11 and the over. But at the moment, I don't think he'll play, so that would be the Titans -11 and under.
And I was going to say, I'd maybe back Chase Daniel to do a surprising win, but I don't know if I'm that confident, to be honest. I think you'd have to be really, really, really confident. So I
remember Galladay's out as well. So
aye. On to we have the football team versus the Seahawks. I'll make sure we don't get explicit, so I will name the team so you don't.
I wrote down beside them Washington football team in capitals this week.
They're playing at FedEx Field. Seahawks are favourite here, so they're starting -6.5, and the over/under is at 43.
Haskins starting for Washington. So he is. So originally I was fancying Washington to cover the 6, but the fact that Haskins starting, I think I'm going to go for the Seahawks -6 and the under.
Well, I've went for the Seahawks, but I went for the over. So we'll see who. It's obviously
You can see it going both ways. So
aye.
43.
It's because it's set so low at 43. And 48, 49.
Was it 43?
For me, it was over under 43. That's why I've went with it.
More updated than mine because I've got 44.5. So
that's you talking. That's you talking the score like 21-24. Do you know what I mean? It's even in a low game, you're expecting that sort of score line to happen. So I think although the Seahawks are playing a tough Washington,
I'll stick with what I said. Stick with the under. I don't usually pick unders that often, so.
Moving on to the later games, we've got the Cardinals and the Eagles playing at the State Farm Stadium. The Cardinals are the favourites by -6.5, and the under/over is set at 49.5, which is quite high. So I have
Breaking news: Michael Thomas is now out.
Who's got him?
Fuck.
This guy. I was trying to point the pen. This guy.
That's a bit shit. Have we covered the Saints game yet? No, we've not. Right,
I'm not about there yet. So we'll start with, I think you've got a bet you were going to say, but I'll start with my pick.
Right.
So it's not
go
confused with your thing. I'm going to go for the Eagles plus 6.5 and the over at 49.5. Won't get into details yet. I'll wait till you've.
I'll do the exact same. Eagles plus 6.5. I think that's just too much for the Cardinals to win by a touchdown. So Eagles plus 6.5 and the over I would go for as well. We kind of touched on it earlier that it will be a high scoring game. Well, we expect it to be a high scoring game. Both quarterbacks are mobile. I touched on the Cardinals defense, man to man kind of thing. So there'll be a load of rushing lanes for Jalen Hurts, and Kyler rushed better we rushed more last week than he did the previous week. So I think that both quarterbacks, Hurts and Kyler, could easily both rush for 100 yards. But the bet that I would try and get, and this one you would obviously have to request it from the bookies, would be for Hurts and Kyler both to rush for, what would you say, at least 60, maybe even push it to 70, at least 70 yards each, and one rushing touchdown each. At least.
See, you mentioned before we came on that you were going to do it, so I hadn't requested that, but I added that in straight away, which, if you can see, is it's kind of looking up very good, but it's the Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown. But also, I would have agreed, and I'd have said go for the 100 yards. Now, Kyler Murray hasn't scored 100. I think he's only scored it once this season, but the Eagles are good at getting to the quarterback. This season they've been doing really well for it. Kyler won't have a lot of time, and I don't think he'll have enough time to get his deep threats down there. Although the cornerbacks are crap for the Eagles, I reckon he will do, because Daniel Jones, for God's sake, got how many yards against like 130 yards or something stupid.
He wasn't even healthy.
So I could see Kyler Murray getting out all the time. The other person that does it to the Eagles quite often is Russell Wilson. He seems to get out of the pocket and run. Lamar Jackson does it. So we don't seem to defend against the run. So I would say the bet to go for there would be over the 100 yards, because I think Jalen will do the same. He'll use his legs more than he'll use his arms. So we'll make
I just wrote down like the 60 yards for folk that kind of wanted to play it a wee bit more conservative, because I did say like 100 yards Hurts could rush for this week kind of thing earlier on. So I think we did it down to like wrote it down as 60 just for
that. In for a penny.
Kind of thing.
In for a penny. And did you go the over as well? Over 49?
We're both the exact same there. So we've got a decent coupon on this week.
We're matching up.
We've agreed on a fair few.
So the next game up, we've got the Rams and the Jets at SoFi Stadium. The Rams start as favourites at -17 and the under over at 43.5. Well, I went for the -17, but I went for the under because I just don't see the Jets putting up a lot of points, and there's a few injury concerns for the Rams, and they're a bit hot and cold. I just think they'll pop up with maybe 36, 37 points, that kind of range, and the Jets just won't put up anything because they're shocking.
I had that one to the coupon as well then, because I've went the exact same. I don't like taking spreads that big, but the fact
it's the Jets.
I'd written down just the Rams to win because the spread was so high, but because we said that we're just going to just do the spreads and stuff, balls out basically. I'm the same then. Rams -17 and under. I think it'll be like the Rams will get like 24 and the Jets will get like 10 or 13 or something like that. So
The Jets are officially limping for Lawrence. That's a definite. The prime time 9:25, well, it's not prime time, but it's the 9:25 Sky game will be Saints versus Chiefs, and that's at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Chiefs start the favourites at -3, and the over-under is set at 52.
So obviously we just touched on the Michael Thomas being out there. Don't know if that changes anything. Originally I had written the Chiefs to cover the spread and the under. Breeze is back as well now, so I don't think my bet's going to change there, to be honest with you. But you don't know how healthy Breeze is going to be, so I would have the Chiefs spread and the under. I mean, I could easily hit the over if Breeze is healthy. It could be a shootout, but I'll stick with what I'd put before. I mean, I'd written down Chiefs -3 and the under, and now that Michael Thomas is out, it really means that it will more likely go under with your best offensive player out, basically. So, I mean, you don't know how healthy Breeze is, so Chiefs spread and under.
I'm also Chiefs, but I'm going to go for the over on this one. We'll see who comes out on top there. Sunday night football, Giants versus the Browns at MetLife Stadium. The Browns start as favourites at -6.5 and the over at 44. So I've went for the Browns to cover at -6.5. But I went for the over, which was a wee bit touch and go, but similar. It's just that 44 points. When you see something that low, I really struggle to think that a scoreline of 24-21, which I use quite often in my head, I would like to think the Giants, they had a bit of, I think it was last week, they had a bad week, but I don't think that's who they are. I think they're a better team than that, so I'll take it for the over. But I think the Browns will cover.
Aye, with the exact same there, but that 44, I mean, the Browns put up 42 or 44 against the Ravens on Monday Night Football, so Ravens are a better defence than the Giants, so I think the Browns could easily hit that 40-point mark themselves. So, Browns spread and the over, exact same. I don't think the Giants will be better this week with Daniel Jones getting a wee bit healthier. So.
I agree with that. And final match of the week. So on Monday Night Football, we have the Bengals versus the Steelers. Paul Brown. This is another big divide in it. So it's Steelers starting as the favourites at -13 and the under over at 40.5.
This is always a dirty game, isn't it? Bengals Steelers, it's always dirty. I mean, a couple of years ago there was a proper late hit. I think it was the Bengals guy, and he got ejected and suspended for so many games or whatever. There's always bad blood between these two. So I think we probably went for the same in this. So I went for the Steelers to cover the spread and the under.
I went for the over, and I know again it's just.
It was the over under I was thinking for you, but I just think that Steelers defense is just going to shut down the Bengals with a backup quarterback.
But the Steelers are also due a bounce back week. They've had a few dodgy games, and I think this is where Big Ben maybe steps up and throws a few TDs, and then Connor, if fit and plays well, maybe gets a couple. So, I'm going to stick to an over. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but because the Bengals aren't the greatest, but I'll stick with that one. And that will conclude the NFL matchups, and I think that concludes us for this week until we do a review or a preview on Tuesday night next week.
Brandon Cooks has just been upgraded to active as well, so I got hit in the balls with Michael Thomas been out, but I've kind of stood halfway back up again with Brandon Cooks.
See, don't listen to any of the injury updates we give because they constantly change.
Nah.
And if you manage to stick it out for what's probably about an hour and 20 minutes, then fair play. And Gary's already owed a $5, but Ian said before we came on, he said, look, if anybody else listens again this week, he'll give them £7.50. So just
stop lying, I'll be in massive debt by the end of these.
Just say in the WhatsApp group, I'll have my £7.50.
Any message. Gary messaged me on WhatsApp last week asking where his 20 quid was. I just dinged it.
You can't run away.
Ask Riley.
You can't run away from it. It was you who said it, not me. I just...
His first 2 pence will get delivered next week or something. You said it was getting delivered in 2 pences or something, didn't you?
We instalments is fine. That's fine. Anyway, cheers for the chat, and I look forward to catching up after this week's matchups, and good luck to everybody, whether you're in the playoffs or the Spoon Trophy. Good luck for this week's matchups.
Aye, good luck everybody. Semi-finals, so big week. The both semi-finals we said should be very, very good and fun matchups. So it should be fun just watching on for the side for myself as a neutral on the 4 matchups. So I've just got my pride to play for. No finishing. Well, I've not finished bottom of the league, so I just try to get the win every week as it goes. So good luck everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Right, cheers.
Adios.
Right.